presentations today, part 6 and part 7 of the covenant code we've been presenting throughout the week. So this little red dotted line here is what we're referring to about the sanctuary, this little box inside here, which is the most holy place and the holy place. So the term sanctuary in the context of the tabernacle refers to the entire sacred structure, but is often specifically used to denote the two main sections within the tabernacle, the holy place and the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies. The holy place contains the table of showbread, golden lampstand, and the altar of incense. So the holy place is this little section in here. It is the first room entered by the priest and separated from the most holy place by a veil. The veil between the holy place and most holy place marked the furthest point any priest other than the high priest was sanctioned to travel. So the door of this sanctuary, the first door over here, marked the place as far as the common person could go. Only the priest could enter through this door. The veil, only the high priest could enter. The innermost section contains the Ark of the Covenant, which is the most holy place, topped by the mercy seat. It is the most sacred area where God's presence dwells, and only the high priest could enter it once a year on the Day of Atonement. The elements within the holy place, the table of showbread, golden lampstand, altar incense, and the most holy place, the Ark of the Covenant and mercy seat, all point to Jesus Christ and his fulfillment of the covenant. Jesus is the bread of life, the showbread, the light of the world, the lampstand, and our intercessor, altar incense. The Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat illustrate Jesus' atoning sacrifice, his role as mediator between God and humanity, through whom man will be reconciled to God, and the divine authority to deliver God's people out of their captivity as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. When Ezekiel was instructed to measure the tabernacle, the prophet referred to as the Son of Man was then told to show the house to the house, to show the house representing the Lord's dwelling place, which is the sanctuary, to the house of the Lord's covenant people. The shame of the people would be derived from their new observance of the tabernacle pattern through a greater revelation of it by the Lord's prophet, because in the light of this revelation, they would observe the things that they and their forefathers had failed to see. They would see clearly all that the Lord had done for them, their special place and privilege in the covenant, and what awaited them upon the fulfillment of the same covenant by the Lord. This is why it says, let them measure the plan. Let them observe for themselves the plan of redemption. Then, if they are ashamed for all they've done, then make known to them the design of the temple. So show it to them because they haven't, their forefathers haven't observed, they haven't observed what this is all about, the law of redemption and where they stand in it. Show that to them, and we're going to see that today. Most important of all, show them that their freedom is not an afterthought in the Lord's covenant. It is the law. Write it down in their sight so that they may keep the complete design and all of its statutes and may carry them out. This is the law of the temple. The prophet called the Son of Man was to show them that if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. John 8:36. Their beautiful city, their promised land, and temple had all been destroyed by the Babylonians that took them captive. But their leaders had long sought to embrace the outward grandeur of the Babylonian lifestyle. But all that glitters is not gold. It was superficial, venal, which means subject to bribery or up for sale to the highest bidder, and unsustainable. So the point is here, the prophet is showing them that their freedom is not an afterthought, it's the law. And what more beautiful thing can you learn than that your redemption is the law? The law that people have showed you as being restrictive or being not necessary. It's actually the law of the covenant, your redemption. And that is not just an afterthought. It was carefully carried out, fulfilled through all of these covenant events. And I hope that we see that today, that how beautiful the law is. The Lord gave them over to their lusts and departed from them. Ezekiel was given a vision of the presence of God departing from the temple before it was destroyed. Like Adam and Eve originally, and Esau when he sold his inheritance for a single meal, man is swift to seek to satisfy his temporal lusts and slow to grasp eternity. But in the mercy of the Lord, it is exactly in these times such as these, when man has swallowed the lie and temporarily suffered the loss of his freedom, that the Lord can finally get our attention. When we are hedged in and free from our normal distractions by the mere fact that we appear to have nowhere else to go but to Him. So we listen. If we are willing to listen, if we will obey His instructions and measure and observe His eternal plan and His fulfillment of it from the beginning, we will begin to see the truth about this incredible God and the law that He has placed us under through His covenant. We will observe it is not restrictive, as others have tried to portray in the beginning with Satan. Instead, it is the most beautiful law in the world. By it, we belong to the Lord and can never be sold into permanent captivity, not even to sin, evil, or death. The earth and all its creation belongs to the Lord, and it is only the Lord that will distribute it to His people at the end. It is the law of unity and peace with the Lord. Imagine that. I mean, we're not making anything up here. It is the law, man's redemption. That's what the covenant is all about, the redemption of man, and it is the law, the law of the covenant. Through a mutual faith in love for Him, man and God find their agreement and reconciliation, which is the mediator of the law, which is Jesus Christ. So through our mutual faith and love in Jesus, man and God have their atonement, their at-one-ment, their reconciliation. The tabernacle pattern is a blueprint of how God would fulfill His covenant with man through His anointed. The acts of Jesus are the foundation or the cornerstone and completion or the capstone of the tabernacle. The first instruction the Lord gave Moses atop the mountain was to tell the people to build a sanctuary that He may dwell among them. The sanctuary is an illustration of the Lord's covenant to dwell among His people. In observing it, we see both the acts of Christ and the acts of His people in response. The sanctuary plan is equally an illustration of the Redeemer and of the redeemed. In our measurement of the sanctuary, we will observe the redeemed in Christ from the first generation until the last that are specifically memorialized and prefigured in the sanctuary pattern. We will now begin our observation of the sanctuary by measuring the covering given for the sanctuary. Begin our observation of the sanctuary from the top and work our way down. The tabernacle was intended to be portable so that it could be easily transported from one location to the next during the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness before entering the promised land. The walls were made of solid materials, but the ceiling was composed of 4 distinct layers of costly fabrics and animal skins that together rendered its beauty while protecting it from the elements. The first covering was designed to render its beauty. It would be the only layer that was visible to those within the sanctuary as they looked skyward. It was the innermost sanctuary covering. So the other coverings kind of veiled all the beauty that was inside. But the first covering, when you're inside the tabernacle, you looked up. You saw this beauty. You saw this specifically designed covering, and we're gonna take a look at that first. The instruction Moses received for the fabrication of this inner covering are found in Exodus chapter 26. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twisted linen, in blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubim of cunning work shall thou make them. The length of one curtain shall be 8 and 20 cubits, so 28 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, so 28 by 4. And every one of them curtains shall have one measure, so it'll be the same size. The 5 curtains shall be coupled together one to another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. So you got 10 curtains altogether, but half of them are all put together, and the other half of them put together, and then those 2 halves are joined to make one curtain. Thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of one curtain, um, for the selvage in the coupling, and likewise shall make the uttermost edge of the other curtain in the coupling of the second. So those 2 sections of 5 curtains are joined together by these couplings. 50 loops shall thou make in one curtain, and 50 loops shall thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the coupling of the second, that the loops may take hold of one another. And thou shalt make 50 taches of gold, and couple the curtains together with the taches, and it shall be one tabernacle. So this covering is a one tabernacle, or the sanctuary. This is covering for what the Lord refers to as, proper as the sanctuary, or as the tabernacle. That's the place where he will dwell, and that's the place that all these other things happen. The communion, the light, everything happens within this covering. So this covering is for the whole sanctuary, and is one covering, even though it's made of 10 parts. In summary, the covering was to consist of 10 curtains, each of the same size. They were designed to be interlocked to form a single curtain that would cover the entire sanctuary and serve as its inner ceiling. Each curtain was to be 28 in length and 4 in breadth. This each occupied an area of 112 cubits, which is 28 by 4. The 10 curtains would be interlocked together to form a single covering occupying 1,120 cubits. And the way it's designed, so we look at, and this isn't really a good picture of what the curtain looked like, but it's best I could find. So, but this is the inner one right here, and it hangs right down to the sockets that hold it up. And let's look at that more. So when you get that 28 by 4, that covers the entire, from the silver sockets all the way over the boards, the top, and down the other side. So it's just shy. So all you would see, if the other ones were removed, you would just see the silver sockets, and then you'd see the covering. Quite a different view from the inside, though, which I'll show you next. But then you have the second covering, then you have the third, and then you have the fourth. And so they kind of veil the beauty that's inside it, but that's what we see here. So fine twisted linen. So this is supposed to be made of fine twisted linen. Was used in various places within tabernacle and in the garments of the priests, fabricated from flax fibers that are first spun and then twisted before being weaved. Fine twined linen was so valued in the ancient Middle East that it was often used as currency in the fine Egyptian linen. In addition to the first covering, it was used for the priestly garments and all the entrance and barrier points of the tabernacle. So, where would they get this from? Well, they left Egypt, and when they left Egypt, it says they plundered Egypt, but basically the Egyptians gave them gifts. So when you have fine twined linen as a form of currency, it's just as precious as gold or silver or some of the other gifts they left with. So the source of it was in their exodus from Egypt. So here's a close-up, and it'd be as if you're looking from behind the Ark of the Covenant towards the veil. And this is a much better rendering of what that veil looked like. But this veil, and the reason I include this picture is because only 2 items were made with this distinct color and this pattern, and only 2 of the soft materials have cherubim on them. So the one is in this door with this veil that separates the holy place from the most holy place. But you would see the cherubim, you would see the blue and the different colors in here, and that would be your view. And of course, you have the cherubim that's right on the mercy seat itself. But the same thing you would see if you looked up, the same color, the same design. So you would be surrounded in this cherubim and this blue and this fine, twined linen. And the closer you get to the presence of God, the more detail that's in the fine twined linen. And so as you're right in the presence of God, you see the cherubim and you see the blue and you see the whole pattern. We observe that fine twined linen was used throughout the tabernacle pattern to identify the purity and preeminence of all that the Lord set aside and declared as being holy in their servitude to the fulfillment of his covenant. From the humble white tunics of the priests and the white linen fence, and progressing in majestic illustration by design, the closer one approached the most holy place. Inside the most holy place, the high priest witnessed the blue, purple, scarlet covering above, adorned with cherubim. The veil that enclosed him inside the most holy place illustrated the same majesty. The pure gold mercy seat was covered by the wings of the cherubim. This specific color and artistic design infused with cherubim, was reserved only for the inner veil and the inner coverings of the sanctuary. Now, here's if you're looking from the entrance door into the holy place, and you've seen what I was just talking about. So here's that veil where the first time you see the cherubim, and it's separating the holy place from the most holy place. But if you look up on the ceiling, the inner covering, you see the same thing. You see the beauty of this of the cherubim all around here. So it covers the entire sanctuary, but there's a separation here. And there's a little space that's purpose there too, so that in here you have the light from the seven branch candlestick, but over here, this little space allows you to see the light that's coming from the most holy place, the presence of God. And remember, there's no windows in this place. There's no outside natural light. So when you saw that light, you knew you're in the presence of God, even though you're separated by that veil. So the cherubim adorning the veil and the first covered in the sanctuary. Cherubim guarding the way to the tree of life. After Adam and Eve sinned, God placed cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the way to the tree of life, preventing them from returning to eat from it and live forever in their fallen state. This act demonstrated the separation between humanity and God that existed due to sin. The cherubim embroidered on the first tabernacle covering and on the veil. The cherubim were depicted on the Ark of the Covenant and its mercy seat, which were located in the most holy place of the tabernacle sanctuary. The mercy seat, with cherubim on either end, served as the covering of the ark, in the place where the atoning blood of the sacrificial substitute was sprinkled. The cherubim adorning the veil of the first covering of the sanctuary. The cherubim on the tabernacle covering and veil of the most holy place also signified the separation between God and humanity caused by sin. The veil acted as a physical barrier, marking the restricted entrance from where the cherubim continued to guard the way to the tree of life. The cherubim also adorned the sanctuary covering, illustrating the role of heaven's mightiest angels in guarding the way. Everything within the most holy place on the Day of Atonement, ark, mercy seat, anointed high priest, sacrificial blood, altar of incense, is covered by the wings of the mighty cherubim guarding the way to the tree of life. We see here in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles 5, 7, 8. And the priests brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord unto this place, he's talking about the most holy place, to the oracle of the house, into the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread forth their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered the ark and the staves thereof. Well, we don't have cherubim on the poles that carry the ark, the staves. How do the wings cover them and cover that whole area? Because those wings of the cherubim are not only on the mercy seat, but they're on the inner covering, the ceiling above, and they're on the veil that separates it. So the whole thing is under the wings. It says, even under the wings of the cherubim, that ark is brought in. Even as you bring it in through the holy place, it's under the wings of the cherubim till you get into the most holy place. Then once they get that in there, they set up the veil, and so it's a beautiful thing that's all is under the wings of the cherubim, which have always guarded the way of life. And it shows that this tabernacle pattern, this covenant, is the way of life, is the redemption plan, is the law that that God made, is the covenant that God made. It's the law that how he'll redeem man. The cherubim appear only in the holy place, most holy place of the tabernacle pattern. I just said that they cover both areas, but where they're exclusively. So, for example, if you're standing in the holy place and you look behind you towards where we're taking this picture from, you will not see the cherubim. You'll see a beautiful, same color, same design. It's missing only one thing. It's missing the cherubim, the entrance door to the holy place. So only in the most holy place do you see cherubim behind you, cherubim, in front of you in the ark, cherubim above you. In the holy place, you see them all in front of you, but behind you, although it's the same as the door to the most holy or the holy place, and it's the same color as the gate to enter. So the cherubim aren't preventing you from entering there, or aren't preventing the commentaries. That it's only the most holy place that they're guarding that way to. But you still see a difference between the gate uh, for the whole tabernacle and between the door for the holy place, and that it's not just plain white linen. It has these elements of heaven, the purple and the red and all those things, just not the cherubim. So they mark the separation between the presence of God and humanity, restricting entrance to all but God's anointed on the appointed day of atonement. They sit upon the mercy seat, bearing witness to the fulfillment of this atoning sacrifice as the way to life eternal for man dwelling with God in peace and in the absence of sin. Exodus 26:33. And hang the veil from the clasp and place the ark of the testimony behind the veil. So the veil will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Leviticus 16:15 says, Aaron shall then slaughter the goat, and this is the Day of Atonement, for the sin offering of the people, and bring its blood behind the veil. And with its blood he must do as he did with the bull's blood. He's to sprinkle it against the mercy seat and in front of it. The chairman, so Matthew 27:51 says, At that moment, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth quaked and the rocks were split. The tearing of the veil in the tabernacle at the moment of Jesus' death supernaturally confirmed the removal of the barrier between God and humanity, granting believers direct access to God's presence through the resurrection of Christ, through the blood and resurrection of Christ. The cherubim adorned veil separating the most holy place from the holy place, and the restricting entry to the anointed one on the Day of Atonement prefigured the sacrificial offering by Jesus of his own flesh to atone for the sins of the people. Hebrews 10:19-20 says, Therefore, brothers, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way, which he hath consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh. He was veiled in humanity, his flesh, but inside was this type of glory, this type of beauty. It veiled his divinity. It veiled his, from humanity, his coming in the flesh, veiled his divinity. So that veil was his flesh. The cherubim guarded the way of the tree of life so that man would not partake of it until the power of sin that separated man from God had been crushed. Remember, the covenant was that the seed would crush the head of the serpent in fulfillment of his covenant in the garden when he posted the cherubim at the entrance to the garden. Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The first inner covering of the tabernacle sanctuary is made of fine twined linen, embroidered with blue, purple, scarlet yarn, and adorned with cherubim. This covering is the most detailed and beautiful of all the coverings, symbolizing the heavenly realm and the divine presence of God. The prophetic significance is the inner covering represents the glory and majesty of God veiled in the tabernacle. It prefigures the incarnation of Jesus Christ, who veiled his divine glory in human flesh. The cherubim on the inner covering symbolize the guardians of God's holiness and the way to the tree of life, which was guarded after the fall of man. This points to Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life, through whom believers can access the presence of God. So, take a first look at measuring the tabernacle covering. And look at this biblical timeline where it's the dimensions of the inner covering, which were 1120 cubits, correspond to significant events in the biblical timeline. For example, The period from the birth of Isaac, which is the promised seed to Abraham, to the consecration of the temple by Solomon is 1120 years. So from 2066 BC to 946 BC. So we look at the birth of Isaac, the seed promised to Abraham, who the Lord provided, born 2066. Consecration of the temple by Solomon, built at the same location that the Lord provided Isaac's sacrificial substitute. So you remember the temple was built exactly where Abraham was set to sacrifice Isaac based on God's instruction when the Lord said, I will provide the sacrifice. So that was in 946 BC. So the total number of years from the birth of Isaac to the consecration of the temple is 2066 minus 946 equals 1120 years. This alignment illustrates the primary significance of the prophetic relationship between the observance of the tabernacle worship pattern and the fulfillment of the Lord's covenant promises through key events in biblical history, culminating in the coming of Jesus Christ. The inner covering's beauty and majesty, hidden from the outside world, symbolize the divine nature of Jesus, who was veiled in human flesh. In his life, ministry, death, and resurrection, we observe the glory, grace, and truth of the Son of God, who, from the first to the last, is the covering for our sins. Are you not glad that this is not just a suggestion, but this covering is the covenant law or the covenant code? How beautiful is this law to you? Imagine, people telling you, oh, don't observe this and the Sabbath, you just go to a movie or do it's all very restrictive. We're not under that anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. Well, if that's gone, if that law is gone, then so is the benefits of that law. So is the fact that our redemption is part of that law. I won't get into it much here. I'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow, but when they talk about the handwriting ordinances being nailed to the cross, and people perceive this in a negative way about the ceremonial laws, etc. Well, archaeology has found in the last 50 years the handwriting ordinance in Greek, which is the certificate of your debt. And it was, of course, it was all handwriting because there was only handwriting at that time, but it was your certificate of debt, what you owed. And when it was fully paid, it was a nail was pierced through it, and it was posted, on a wooden stake or on the say it's for your house. Say you owed money for your house, you would nail that on your door, showing that your house was redeemed, the debt was paid in full. And so when Paul is talking about that, and we can get into it more a little bit tomorrow, but that according to this law, what is the price of redemption? It's the blood of Jesus, and it's nailed to the cross. Your debt is fully paid. That doesn't mean if the law goes away, about your redemption being part of the law, if it goes away before Christ returns to deliver, to his inheritance to his people, then so does that law that makes it your redemption, the redemption of all believers, all repentant believers, viable in effect. So like I said, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But so let's look at this is kind of a little bit of a sideline here for a second, but all of the linen, all of the soft materials of the tabernacle. So we have the white linen fence enclosed in the tabernacle. What are its measurements? It's 500 plus 500 plus 250 plus 150 equals 1400. And why is this last part? So you have 500 on each side, and then you have 250 on this side, but only 150 on this side because you have this gate I was talking about before. And it's not white. It's not white linen. It's that royal colored. It doesn't have the cherubim on it, but it has all the colors of divinity on there. That's this entrance gate with blue, pearl, purple, scarlet. That's 20 wide and 5 high, so that's 100 cubits. Then there's the door for the entry into the holy place, and that is 10 high and 10 wide, so it's 100 cubits. Then you have the veil, which we just talked about with the blue, purple, and scarlet, but also with the cherubim. It's 10 by 10, so that's 100 cubits. Then you have that covering that we just talked about, which is 28 by 4, or 11 or 112 by 10, which is 1120. And then the only other measurement we're given for any of these soft materials, any of these coverings, is for the one that's on top of this one, which is the goat's hair covering. And it is 30 by 4, because it's going to be a little bit bigger than this one to cover it. So it's 120 by 11. It's 1,320 cubits. And we add them all together, it's 4,140 cubits. Just like the time from Adam to Jesus is 4,140 years. So these coverings also match the prophetic timeline from Adam to Jesus, because what happened with Adam? As soon as he confessed his faith by pronouncing his wife's name Eve, meaning mother of all living, Jesus entered them into the covenant, covered their nakedness through what? Through animal skins, and covered their shame. It was him who it wasn't just the skins themselves. It was them knowing that it was the Lord that was covering them. He was their covering. So from Adam all the way to the ministry of Jesus, it's always been about the covering, the redemption. So and it's seen throughout this tabernacle pattern. So here's a better look. Well, actually, what that means is I'm actually finished a little early. Because the next part is measuring tabernacle boards, but let's just take a look at this for a second. So when you look at the layers, I like this picture a lot better. So here's that inner covering. So you wouldn't see it through the boards, but of course it comes over top of here. So if you looked up, you would see the same cherubim and doing thing. It's on this veil, so you would see it this way. Over here, you see the same colors, but there's no cherubim. And this is all veiled in these coverings, which are all fabrics or priestly skins. So this is the sanctuary, and it was covered by that special covering, and that covering has great significance. We're going to see, in fact, as we measure these tabernacle boards, the same numbers come up again, that 1120, etc., because this is the framework. That's the covering. So, and this is the framework of the covenant. And we'll be discussing that, that next. But it's a nothing's by accident. And when people look and see this, when at Ezekiel's time, to see all that the Lord had done to provide for them in this law, in this covenant law, and how they forsake it, and how they went after other gods and other, the glory of Babylon and etc. And then when they're in captivity, is when Ezekiel delivers this message. When their temple's been destroyed, when they're sitting in Babylon in captivity. And Ezekiel, what is the message he gives them? He gives them the message of the Lord returning, of the tabernacle being rebuilt, of the covenant law being fulfilled. And they get to see their special place in that. And you're going to see even more, our special place in this when we look at the boards. But they see all this, and that this is the law. And they see that they themselves are the ones that forsake it, just like Adam and Eve. They forsook the covenant, and they have an opportunity to be re-entered into the covenant. And the entry point is faith in the Word of God. That's the only entry point. It's always been, when they ate of the fruit, they weren't supposed to eat it. They didn't have faith in God's Word. When they expressed, when God told them the judgment, and He told them about the redemption that He personally was going to bring about, they had faith. Now He shone light into their darkness, and they just like Ezekiel, the light that was given to them by the prophet, they saw the covenant in clearer terms. They saw the law in clearer terms. And what Satan had said was restrictive and was kept them from wisdom. They saw how wise the plan was and how beautiful it was. And they also saw who it was that was going to fulfill it, and how he'd done all through history up to that time and up to our time. All these things that the Lord has done that are and these things told in advance by Moses, told by the prophets. But as we're seeing, as we look at this tabernacle, everything told in advance through this tabernacle panel, this prophetic schedule that God foretold the end from the beginning in this pattern. So I'm going to take it to stop sharing for a minute. I can answer a few questions, and we'll take a break, and we'll go on to the tabernacle boards, which might take a little bit more time anyway. So
That's one shiny little tabernacle there.
Yeah, pure gold. Oh,
Hello?
we got
Hello?
we got our friend.
Yeah. Yes. First of all, Shabbat Shalom and Peace Samek. This is your Jewish Adventist friend Mark here. I had a question. Very good presentation. But at the time when Yeshua died on the stake, a lot more things happened at the base of Mectus of the temple besides the curtains being cut open or ripped from top to bottom. I don't know if people were aware, but also it used to be that the great light that was on at all times, suddenly flickered out. And also the doors, which allegedly, according to legend, used to open and close by themselves. And I'm not making this up. This is what I heard. Suddenly stopped closing and all that. That indicated that the Shekhinah or something left the temple because Yeshua, once he died, took upon our sins and all that. That was it. The temple's duties were finished. So I didn't know if you were aware of those extra things that happened at the temple when Yeshua died at that point or not. But I just want to point out all the different significance or signs that Yeshua is the Mashiach. So what do you think?
I had read the same thing, Mark.
Yeah, I'd heard that too.
I think
I just want to point that out.
There was also a huge earthquake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
among other things, yes.
yeah, and I appreciate a lot of things in the Jewish tradition because you learn so much extra things. But I try and, because I don't have that experience, and plus I'm also a little bit leery of some other things that are not so good in that tradition, then I just try and stick with the biblical. But I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that more happened. We also know that
I appreciate.
people were resurrected. Like I said, a lot more was going on at that time. Even the two Roman centurions that were guarding, at the cross, that surely this was the Son of God because of all the things they saw, the earthquake, like somebody just mentioned, and I think it was Keith just mentioned. But so yeah, many things are going on. The thing that we're studying today is the covering and that veil and how they affect things. We're going to look at some things tomorrow, or not tomorrow, in the next few minutes on the tabernacle boards. And then tomorrow, I'm going to bring everything that we've studied from the very first chapter to this last chapter that we'll do next, and show some incredible things of how it all ties together, and you'll see some things I've never shown before, and I just hope it'll be a nice way to tie up this whole week. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you learn. And the good thing is we're all together, we can share and help each other, add precept upon precept, line upon line. So thank you. Well, any more comments or questions?
Well, I was just going to add that it was fantastic you talking about the angels covering guarding the Ark of the Covenant, because that's what they do. That's what they did in the garden, and that's what they do on the Ark of the Covenant, and that's what they
Do to
do
us.
at the exit. Yeah, at the exit of the garden, and that's where they are in the sanctuary, on the ceilings and the sides.
And the cherubim.
What was it? Were they in the holy place and the most holy place?
Well, if you looked one way, if you enter the door of the holy place, that first curtain of the holy place, and you look towards the west, towards the most holy place, then you would see the cherubim on that veil, because it was on both sides of the veil. You would see the cherubim above you. So as you're heading towards the holy place, the closer you head towards God, the more of the glory that you see, and as you see the cherubim. If you turn around and look behind you towards the altar and you looked at that, the door of the holy place, you would see this majestic colored door and it showing divinity, but you would not see the cherubim because they weren't on there. They were only on the veil and the covering. So it shows you once you're inside that, so the anointed high priest, once he's inside that most holy place, and then all around him are the cherubim above at the door on the mercy seat. So he's surrounded by, so it's showing us, because remember that the cherubim were placed at that gate of the Garden of Eden after the covenant was made. God had made the covenant with Adam and Eve at that time, but he had to ban them from the garden so they wouldn't reach out and grab that fruit of the tree of life, and they wouldn't live in their sin forever. And so he put them out there as part of their judgment, and this is the way back in. It's like, okay, well, how do I get back into that garden, into that paradise, into that relationship? I got to get through the cherubim. So it's the Lord, that is all the anointed that gets back through the cherubim, and he's the Son of Man and the Son of God. But he alone goes through that. He alone does the atonement, and then he alone goes to heaven to present the sacrifice, and then he alone comes back to deliver to us his inheritance because he's won back our redemption. He's paid the price. Remember, redemption means a price is paid to regain something or to gain something. So if I redeem my mortgage, I'm regaining my house. So it's a payment to get my house back. The house I put a down payment on, I paid, so I have to pay a price to redeem my mortgage. But once it's done, boom, I can take my mortgage and I can show anybody else, this house belongs to me. That's why that same ordinance of debts that are against us was like having a mortgage, paid in full, nailed to your door, I don't know anything else, nailed to your post, nailed to, some public place where you could prove that you didn't have any debt anymore in that house. And the price, so when was the price of our redemption paid? It was paid at the cross. So our debt was paid, our redemption was paid at the cross. It was nailed, our certificate of our being debt free is nailed to the cross. It's the price was paid at the cross. So everything that was against us, every accusation, every sin, all that was paid by Jesus, and the price was paid at the cross through the blood of Jesus. So how much do we value that is the question. And those that don't value that, don't value the sacrifice of his son or don't value these things, they don't receive the redemption because they don't value it. And God, of course, values his son and the sacrifice very much. And once we both value the same thing, that's the reconciliation. That's the atonement, because we both agree on the value of the blood of his son.